On November 3, 2019, 22-year-old Jessica Morgan was scrolling through YouTube when she discovered a beauty and lifestyle channel called Life with Lily. The creator was a 17-year-old girl with long blonde hair, bright smile, and a familiar laugh that made Jessica freeze. Jessica watched 3 videos, her hands shaking, then called her mother. "Mom, I found her. I found Emma." Emma Morgan had been abducted from a grocery store parking lot in Phoenix, Arizona in 2005 when she was 3 years old. For 14 years, her family had searched, hoped, grieved, and never stopped looking. Now here she was, on YouTube, calling herself Lily Chen, living in Portland, Oregon, talking about makeup tutorials and college plans, clearly loved and happy, with no idea she'd been stolen from another family as a toddler. What followed was a legal and emotional nightmare that would tear apart 2 families and force a 17-year-old girl to choose between the only parents she'd ever known and the biological family she couldn't remember. This is the story of Emma Morgan, the girl who was found but never came home. If you want to follow every detail of this and other cases, subscribe to the channel. Here, we have new missing person mysteries every day. Let's get into the video. The Morgan family lived in Phoenix, Arizona, in a 3-bedroom house in a middle-class neighborhood called Desert Vista. David Morgan, 34 in 2005, worked as an accountant for a mid-sized firm downtown. His wife, Rachel, 32, was a part-time nurse who'd cut back her hours after having children. Their daughters were Jessica, 7, and Emma, 3. November 12, 2005 was a Saturday. Rachel had taken both girls to the grocery store around 4 p.m. to shop for the... It was a routine they did every Saturday. David stayed home to watch football. Rachel handled the grocery shopping, with the girls helping to pick out cereal and snacks they liked. The Safeway on Bell Road was busy that afternoon. Rachel had parked toward the back of the lot because the closer spaces were full. She'd loaded the groceries into the trunk of her Honda Accord while Jessica and Emma stood next to the car. Rachel had specifically told them to stay right there, not to wander, to wait while she finished loading. Emma was holding a small stuffed rabbit she'd brought with her, her favorite toy that went everywhere. Jessica was complaining about being hungry and asking if they could get McDonald's. Rachel closed the trunk, turned to tell the girls to get in the car, and Emma was gone. Jessica was still standing there. The stuffed rabbit was on the ground. Emma had vanished in the 30 seconds Rachel had her back turned, loading the last bags. Rachel looked around frantically. "Emma! Emma!" She checked under the car, behind nearby cars, ran up and down the aisle of the parking lot. Other shoppers stopped to help look. Store security was called immediately. Security footage from the parking lot showed what happened. While Rachel's back was turned, a woman approached Emma, said something to her, picked her up, and walked quickly toward a white van parked 3 rows away. Emma didn't scream or resist. The woman carried her calmly, got into the van with Emma, and drove away. Total time, 45 seconds. The footage was grainy, taken from a distance. The woman appeared to be in her 30s or 40s, had dark hair pulled back, wore jeans and a dark jacket. The van was a white Dodge Caravan, older model, but the license plate wasn't visible from the camera angle. Emma had been wearing a pink jacket, blue jeans, and light-up sneakers. She'd been holding her stuffed rabbit until the moment the woman took her. Phoenix police responded immediately. An Amber Alert was issued within an hour. Emma's photo, a recent picture from her 3rd birthday party 2 months earlier, was distributed to every law enforcement agency in Arizona and surrounding states. The grainy security footage of the woman and van was released to media. The investigation consumed hundreds of hours in the first weeks. The woman in the footage didn't match anyone in databases of known child predators. The white van was too common to trace without a license plate. Witnesses in the parking lot hadn't noticed anything unusual. Rachel Morgan blamed herself completely. She'd turned her back for 30 seconds. 30 seconds was all it took for someone to steal her 3-year-old daughter. She would carry that guilt for the rest of her life. David Morgan threw himself into the search. He took leave from work, coordinated with police, organized volunteer search efforts, appeared on local news begging for Emma's return. He printed thousands of flyers with Emma's photo and distributed them across Phoenix and surrounding cities. Jessica, 7 years old, didn't fully understand what had happened. Her little sister had been there, then suddenly wasn't, and everyone was crying and scared. She remembered the stuffed rabbit on the ground, remembered her mother screaming Emma's name, remembered police cars and news cameras. It traumatized her in ways that would affect her for years. The search for Emma Morgan became one of the most publicized missing child cases in Arizona in 2005. Her face was on billboards, on flyers in every store, on the news regularly. Tips came in by the hundreds, possible sightings, suspicious vehicles, people claiming to have information. Every tip was investigated. None led to Emma. As weeks became months, the reality settled in that Emma might never be found. The statistics for abducted children are grim. Most who aren't found in the first 72 hours aren't found alive. The Phoenix Police missing persons detective assigned to the case, Robert Chen, told the Morgans gently that they needed to prepare for the possibility Emma wouldn't, but Rachel refused to accept that. She kept Emma's bedroom exactly as it had been. She celebrated Emma's birthday every year with a cake, singing to an empty chair. She never stopped believing Emma was alive somewhere, would somehow come home. David struggled with the loss differently. He became obsessed with the case, spent hours analyzing the security footage, developing theories about who the woman was, where she might have taken Emma, why nobody had found her. His work suffered. His marriage suffered. By 2008, 3 years after Emma's abduction, David's health was declining from stress. In March 2010, David Morgan died of a heart attack at age 39. The death certificate said cardiac arrest, but Rachel knew the truth. The stress and grief of losing Emma had killed him. David had literally died of a broken heart. Jessica grew up as an only child in a house haunted by her missing sister's absence. She was 15 when her father died, had to watch her mother sink into depression, had to become more mature and responsible than a teenager should have. She learned not to talk about Emma around her mother because it made Rachel cry. She learned to carry her own grief quietly. By 2019, 14 years after Emma's abduction, the case was cold. Phoenix police kept the file open but actively investigated only when new tips came in, which was rare. The Amber Alert had long since expired. Emma's age-progressed photos, showing what she might look like at ages 5, 7, 10, 13, and 16, had been created and distributed, but generated no useful leads. Rachel Morgan, 56 years old, still worked as a nurse part-time, still lived in the same house, still kept Emma's room preserved. She was a member of a support group for parents of missing children, attended meetings monthly, drew strength from others who understood the particular hell of not knowing if your child was alive or dead. Jessica Morgan was 22, had graduated from Arizona State University, worked as a graphic designer for a small firm in Phoenix. She'd grown up under the shadow of her missing sister, had seen what the loss did to her parents, had developed her own complex relationship with the memory of the 3-year-old sister she barely remembered. And then, on November 3, 2019, Jessica discovered Life with Lily on YouTube, and everything changed. Jessica had been watching YouTube makeup tutorials, something she did occasionally to learn new techniques. The algorithm recommended a video called Fall Makeup Look 2019 by a channel called Life with Lily. Jessica clicked it without thinking much about it. The video opened with a girl, probably 17 or 18, sitting in a well-lit bedroom with posters on the walls behind her. She had long brown hair, olive skin, brown eyes, and a bright, infectious smile. Hey guys, it's Lily. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a fall-themed makeup tutorial because it's November, and I'm obsessed with autumn colors right now. Jessica watched the girl talk, watched her do her makeup while chatting about her week, about school, about random thoughts. The video was typical YouTube teenager content, not particularly polished, but genuine and likable. But something about the girl's face made Jessica keep watching. Something familiar she couldn't quite place. The shape of her eyes, maybe. The way she smiled. Something. Jessica clicked on the channel page. Life with Lily had about 100,000 subscribers. The videos were mostly lifestyle content. Makeup tutorials, vlogs, room tours, day-in-my-life videos, college preparation content. The channel had been active for about 2 years based on upload dates. Jessica clicked on an older video, then another. In one video, the girl, Lily, talked about her family. She mentioned her mom and dad, called them the best parents ever, showed photos of family vacations. In another video, she showed her childhood bedroom and talked about growing up in Portland, Oregon. Jessica stared at one particular photo Lily showed in a vlog. A family photo from what looked like Lily's elementary school years. Lily as a child, maybe 7 or 8, with a woman and man who were presumably her parents. The child in the photo looked like Emma. or like what Emma would have looked like at that age. Jessica had seen the age-progressed photos police had created over the years. The resemblance was striking. Jessica took screenshots, her heart pounding. She watched more videos, looking for more childhood photos. Found several. In every one, the child looked like she could be Emma Morgan. Then Jessica found a specific detail that made her certain. In one video, Lily was talking about a scar on her left eyebrow. "I've had this since I was really little. I think I fell or something. My parents say I don't remember because I was so young." Emma Morgan had a scar on her left eyebrow. She'd gotten it when she was 18 months old, had fallen and hit her head on a coffee table, had needed 3 stitches. Jessica remembered because their mother had felt so guilty. Jessica's hands were shaking as she called her mother. "Mom, I need you to come over right now. I found something. I think I found Emma." Rachel arrived at Jessica's apartment 30 minutes later. Jessica had her laptop ready with the YouTube channel. "Mom, I need you to watch these videos and tell me if you see what I see." Rachel watched. She saw the girl, Lily, talking about makeup and school and normal teenage things. She saw the smile, the eyes, the familiar expressions. She saw the scar on the left eyebrow. Rachel started crying before the first video ended. "That's her. That's Emma. Oh my God, Jessica, that's Emma." They watched hours of videos that night. Lily Chen, age 17, living in Portland, Oregon. Her videos showed a normal, happy teenager. She talked about her parents lovingly, showed family photos, talked about planning to attend Portland State University, talked about her boyfriend, her friends, her life. In one video from 6 months earlier, Lily had done a childhood photos video where she showed pictures of herself growing up. Rachel paused on each photo, studying them. The photos showed Lily as a baby, as a toddler, as a young child, through elementary and middle school up to recent times. The early photos, baby and toddler, showed a child who could absolutely, but they also showed the woman who was supposedly Lily's mother holding the baby, appearing in family photos, clearly presented as Lily's biological mother. Rachel zoomed in on a photo of the woman pregnant, presumably with Lily. The photo was labeled "Mom Pregnant with Me 2002. If this was Emma, then these photos were fabricated somehow. This woman hadn't given birth to Emma. Emma had been born to Rachel in 2002. But here were photos suggesting otherwise. Rachel and Jessica stayed up until 3 a.m. watching videos, taking screenshots, analyzing every detail. By dawn, Rachel was certain this was Emma, and Jessica agreed the resemblance and specific details were too significant to be coincidence. At 8 a.m. on November 4, 2019, Rachel called Phoenix Police Department and asked to speak to Detective Chen, who'd handled Emma's case years ago. Chen had retired, but the department connected Rachel with Detective Sarah Williams, who now handled cold missing persons cases. Rachel explained, "I found my daughter. She's on YouTube. She's been living in Portland this whole time." Detective Williams took Rachel and Jessica's information seriously, despite the unusual circumstances of the discovery. She had them come to the station, reviewed the YouTube videos they'd identified, looked at the screenshots of childhood photos, examined the similarities they'd noted. Williams was cautious. YouTube didn't automatically mean this was Emma Morgan. There are millions of teenage girls online. Resemblance isn't proof, but the specific details, the scar location, the age match, the facial features, were compelling enough to warrant investigation. Williams contacted the Portland Police Bureau and explained the situation. A girl on YouTube matching the description and age of a child abducted from Phoenix in 2005 was living in Portland with a family who claimed she was their biological daughter. This needed investigation. Portland PD assigned Detective James Morrison to work with Williams. Morrison's first step was to verify basic information about Lily Chen without alerting the family yet. Lily Chen was registered as a student at Lincoln High School in Portland. Her birth certificate on file with Oregon Vital Records showed she was born April 15, 2002 in Portland, to parents Grace and Thomas Chen. Her social security number had been issued in Oregon in 2002. This was concerning because if this was Emma Morgan, then Emma had been born in Phoenix in August 2002. The birth certificate and social security number for Lily Chen would have to be fraudulent. Morrison obtained school photos of Lily Chen from Lincoln High School. The photos showed clear facial features and identifying marks, including the scar on the left eyebrow. He sent the photos to Phoenix PD to compare against photos of Emma Morgan. Forensic facial comparison experts examined the photos. Their conclusion: the probability that Lily Chen and Emma Morgan were the same person was extremely high based on facial structure, features, and the distinctive eyebrow scar in the identical location. This was enough for Morrison to move forward with the investigation. On November 12, 2019, exactly 14 years after Emma's abduction, Morrison and 2 other Portland officers went to the Chen family home. The house was a well-maintained 2-story in a middle-class neighborhood in southeast Portland. Morrison knocked on the door. A woman in her 50s answered. Grace Chen. Morrison identified himself and explained they needed to speak with the family about their daughter Lily regarding a missing persons case from Arizona. Grace Chen's face went completely white. She said, "I need to call my husband," and closed the door. 15 minutes later, a man arrived, Thomas Chen, also in his 50s, appearing frightened and agitated. He said through the door that they weren't speaking to anyone without an attorney present. Morrison explained that wasn't a problem. They could arrange a time to speak with attorneys present, but that this was a very serious matter involving a child abducted 14 years ago, and they needed cooperation from the family. Thomas Chen refused to open the door or engage further. Morrison obtained a warrant to collect DNA evidence from Lily Chen. On November 15th, officers returned to Lincoln High School and, with school cooperation and legal authorization, collected a DNA sample from Lily Chen using a cheek swab during school hours. Lily was 17, a minor, so the sample collection had to be handled carefully with legal protocol. Lily was confused and upset, asking what this was about, why police needed her. School staff told her only that it was related to a police investigation and her parents would explain. The DNA sample was sent to a lab for analysis and comparison against DNA samples Rachel and David Morgan had provided to police years ago when Emma was first abducted. The results came back on November 22, 2019. Lily Chen and Rachel Morgan shared DNA markers consistent with a mother-daughter relationship. The probability of maternity was 99.99%. Lily Chen was Emma Morgan. She'd been living in Portland with the Chen family for 14 years, raised as their biological daughter, with no knowledge that she'd been abducted from a parking lot in Phoenix when she was 3 years old. On November 25, 2019, Portland police, FBI agents, and prosecutors from the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office executed search warrants at the Chen family home and arrested Grace and Thomas Chen on charges of custodial interference and conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Lily was at school when the arrest happened. She came home that afternoon to find police cars outside her house, yellow crime scene tape, and neighbors standing around watching. Officers told her she couldn't enter the house, that her parents had been arrested, and that she needed to come to the police station. Lily, 17 years old, terrified and confused, asked what her parents had been arrested for. The officers told her only that it related to her identity and that everything would be explained at the station. At Portland Police Headquarters, Lily was brought into a room with Detective Morrison, an FBI agent named Karen Foster, and a social worker named Patricia Reynolds. They explained, as gently as possible, that Lily Chen wasn't Lily Chen. She was Emma Morgan, abducted from Phoenix, Arizona in 2005 when she was 3 years old. Lily's reaction was immediate and intense. "That's insane. That's completely wrong. You're crazy. I'm Lily Chen. My parents are my parents. I've lived in Portland my whole life." They showed her photos of herself as Emma Morgan, the 3-year-old in the pink jacket, the birthday party photos, pictures with her biological parents and sister. Lily stared at the photos, but insisted they weren't her. They showed her the DNA results. Morrison explained, "Lily, your DNA matches Rachel Morgan's DNA. She's your biological mother. The evidence is conclusive." Lily started crying. No, you're lying. This is some mistake. My mom is my mom. My dad is my dad. We have pictures of her pregnant with me. I've seen them. This doesn't make sense." Agent Foster explained gently. "Lily, we believe your parents, the people who raised you, acquired you illegally when you were 3 years old. You were abducted from a grocery store parking lot in Phoenix. Your real name is Emma Morgan. Your biological mother, Rachel, has been searching for you for 14 years. Lily became hysterical. "I don't remember anything like that. I don't remember Phoenix. My earliest memories are from Portland. I remember being 4 years old at my birthday party here. I remember starting kindergarten here. This can't be true." The social worker tried to calm her. "Lily, Emma, it's completely normal that you don't remember being 3 years old. Most people don't have clear memories from that, and if you were in a stable, loving home after age 3, you would have no reason to question that it was your home." Over the next hours, investigators explained what they believed happened. Grace and Thomas Chen had somehow acquired Emma Morgan shortly after her abduction in November 2005. Whether they'd abducted her themselves or had gotten her from whoever did was still under investigation. They'd taken her to Portland, created false documentation claiming she was their biological daughter born in 2002, and raised her as Lily Chen. The pregnancy photos Lily had seen were presumably faked, or were of Grace pregnant with another child who'd died or been given up. Grace had been unable to have children or had lost a child, and had decided to acquire one illegally rather than adopt through legal channels. Lily refused to believe any of it. "My parents love me. They've given me everything. They've been perfect parents. Why would they have stolen me? This doesn't make any sense." Morrison explained that sometimes people who desperately want children make terrible decisions. That love for a child and committing crimes aren't mutually exclusive. That Grace and Thomas had apparently loved Lily and treated her well. But that didn't change the fact they'd stolen her from her biological family. Lily was shown a video message Rachel Morgan had recorded. In it, Rachel talked about Emma as a 3-year-old, about the day she was taken, about 14 years of searching and hoping. Rachel looked into the camera with tears streaming down her face and said, "Emma, if you're seeing this, I want you to know I never stopped looking for you. I never stopped loving you. You have a mother and a sister who have missed you every single day. Please come home." Lily watched the video stone-faced, then said, "I don't know that woman. She's not my mother. I'm sorry she lost her daughter, but I'm not her." The FBI arranged for Lily to stay temporarily with a foster family while the legal situation was resolved. She couldn't go back to the Chen house because it was a crime scene and her parents were in custody. She couldn't immediately go to Rachel Morgan because legally she was still Lily Chen, a minor, and there were custody issues to sort out. Lily spent that night in a stranger's house, in a strange bed, unable to process that her entire life had been a lie. Grace and Thomas Chen were charged with multiple felonies related to Emma Morgan's abduction and subsequent concealment. The investigation had uncovered that they hadn't personally abducted Emma from the parking lot, but had purchased her from the woman who had. That woman was identified through investigation as Margaret Sullivan, now 62, living in Nevada. Sullivan had been arrested in late 2005 on unrelated fraud charges, had spent 3 years in prison, and had gotten out in 2008. She'd never been connected to Emma's abduction until the investigation into the Chens revealed evidence of payment to Sullivan shortly after Emma disappeared. Sullivan was arrested in December 2019 and charged with kidnapping. She eventually agreed to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence. Her testimony revealed what had happened. Sullivan had been working as an unlicensed private adoption facilitator in 2005, connecting desperate would-be parents with babies and children obtained through illegal means. Grace Chen had contacted Sullivan in October 2005 asking for help getting a child after legal adoption attempts had failed. Sullivan had specifically targeted young children in public places, looking for opportunities to take a child who could be quickly moved out of state before Amber Alert systems could be maximally effective. She'd seen Emma in the Safeway parking lot, had taken her in the 45 seconds Rachel's back was turned, had driven immediately to a safe house in Tucson where she'd kept Emma for 3 days. Grace and Thomas Chen had paid Sullivan $50,000 for Emma, had picked her up in Tucson, and had driven her to Portland. They'd already prepared false documentation claiming Emma was their biological daughter. They'd moved to a new neighborhood where nobody knew them well, told neighbors they'd recently moved from Seattle with their daughter, and integrated into community life as a normal family. Emma had been 3 years old when taken, old enough to talk but young enough that her memories of her previous life would fade quickly, especially in a loving environment where nobody mentioned her past. Grace and Thomas had apparently been affectionate, attentive parents who genuinely loved the child they'd bought. By the time Emma was 4, 5, 6 years old, she had no conscious memory of ever being anyone other than Lily Chen, daughter of Grace and Thomas Chen of Portland, Oregon. The legal situation was complex. Emma Lily was 17 years old, would turn 18 in August 2020. As a minor, her custody was legally in question. As Emma Morgan, her legal guardian should be Rachel Morgan, her biological mother. As Lily Chen, the only parents she knew were in jail facing serious criminal charges. Rachel Morgan petitioned for immediate custody of Emma. Her attorney argued that Rachel was Emma's legal mother, that Emma had been stolen from her, and that Emma should be returned to her biological family. Grace and Thomas Chen's attorney argued that while his clients faced criminal charges, Emma Lily was nearly 18, and her wishes should be considered regarding where she lived and whom she considered her family. The court appointed a guardian ad litem, an attorney named David Rodriguez, to represent Emma Lily's interests. Rodriguez met with her multiple times to understand her perspective and wishes. Emma Lily was adamant. "I don't want to go to Phoenix. I don't want to live with strangers. Grace and Thomas are my parents. I don't care what the DNA says. They raised me. They love me. They're my family." Rodriguez explained that Grace and Thomas had committed serious crimes. Emma Lily responded, "They gave me a good life. They were good parents. I don't understand why they're being punished for loving me." Rachel Morgan flew to Portland in December 2019 with Jessica. They met with Emma Lily in a supervised setting at the courthouse. It was the first time Rachel had seen her daughter in 14 years. Rachel cried when she saw Emma Lily. She tried to hug her. Emma Lily stepped back, uncomfortable. "I'm sorry," Emma Lily said. "I know this is emotional for you, but I don't know you. You're a stranger to me." Rachel brought photo albums showing Emma as a baby and toddler. She showed videos of Emma's third birthday party, showed Emma with her sister Jessica, tried to trigger memories or recognition. Emma Lily looked at the photos politely but distantly. "That could be me, I guess. I don't remember any of it. I'm sorry." Jessica tried to connect with her sister. "Emma, I'm your sister. We grew up together for 4 years. Don't you remember anything?" "My name is Lily. And no, I don't remember. I'm sorry you lost your sister. But that person doesn't exist anymore. I'm Lily Chen. That's who I've been for 14 years." The meeting was painful and accomplished nothing. Rachel left devastated that her daughter, the child she'd searched for 14 years, didn't want to come home, didn't consider herself Rachel's daughter, didn't remember their family. The court hearing on custody was scheduled for January 2020. Both sides would present arguments about what was in Emma Lily's best interest. The custody hearing took place on January 15, 2020. Judge Patricia Williams presided. Rachel Morgan was represented by her attorney. Grace and Thomas Chen, still facing criminal charges, were represented by their attorney, who argued for Emma Lily's wishes to be considered. The guardian ad litem David Rodriguez presented his recommendation after extensive investigation and interaction with Emma Lily. Rodriguez's report was clear. Emma Lily, nearly 18 years old, had been raised in a loving home by the Chens from age 3. She had no memories of her biological family. She considered the Chens her parents and wanted to remain with them, or at minimum remain in Portland near them. Rachel Morgan testified tearfully about the 14 years of searching, about David's death from the stress, about keeping Emma's room preserved, about never giving up hope. She begged the court to give her daughter back. Emma Lily testified that while she understood she'd been abducted and that Rachel was her biological mother, she had no emotional connection to Rachel or to the Morgan family. She'd been raised by Grace and Thomas Chen, loved them, and considered them her real parents regardless of biology. The judge asked Emma Lily, "If you could choose where to live, what would you choose?" Emma Lily answered, "I'd choose to stay with my parents, but they're in jail, so I guess I'd choose to stay in Portland, finish my senior year, and turn 18. Then I'll make my own decisions." The judge asked, "Are you willing to have a relationship with Rachel Morgan and Jessica Morgan?" Emma Lily hesitated. "I don't want to hurt them, but they're strangers to me. I don't feel like their daughter or sister. I'm sorry, but I don't." Judge Williams issued her ruling on January 20th, 2020. Given Emma Lily's age, nearly 18, her clear preferences, her lack of memory of her biological family, and the psychological harm that would be caused by forcibly relocating her against her will, the court was granting temporary custody to the state of Oregon through foster care placement in Portland. Emma Lily would remain in Portland, finish her senior year of high school, and turn 18 in August 2020. At that point, she would be a legal adult and could make her own decisions about family relationships and residence. The court encouraged both families to participate in family therapy with Emma Lily if she was willing, but would not force her to have contact with the Morgan family against her wishes. Rachel Morgan was devastated. She'd found her daughter after 14 years, but the daughter she'd found didn't want to come home. Grace and Thomas Chen's criminal case proceeded separately. Grace pled guilty to custodial interference and conspiracy charges in February 2020 and was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Thomas pled guilty to similar charges and was sentenced to 10 years. At their sentencing, both expressed remorse for their crime, but insisted they'd loved Lily and given her a good life. Grace said through tears, "What we did was wrong. We know that. But we loved her like our own daughter. We gave her everything we could. We're sorry for the pain we caused the Morgan family, but we can never be sorry for having Lily in our lives." Emma Lily attended the sentencing. She cried as her parents were sentenced, told them she loved them, and promised to visit them in prison. Emma Lily turned 18 in August 2020. At that point, she was legally an adult and could make her own choices. She chose to remain in Portland, attended Portland State University, and continued considering herself Lily Chen, despite knowing her biological identity. Rachel Morgan made multiple attempts to build a relationship. She sent letters, gifts, tried to arrange meetings. Emma Lily was polite but distant, agreeing to occasional awkward lunch meetings but never developing a close relationship. Jessica tried to connect with her sister through social media and occasional visits, but the relationship remained superficial. They were too different, had grown up in different worlds, shared no common memories. By 2021, Rachel had to accept reality. She'd found her daughter, but she'd lost her anyway. Emma Morgan had been replaced by Lily Chen, and Lily Chen didn't want to be Emma. As of 2024, Lily Chen, legally Emma Morgan but using the name Lily, is 22 years old, a senior at Portland State University studying business marketing. She still runs her YouTube channel, though she took a break from posting during the legal drama in 2019-2020. When she returned to YouTube, she addressed the situation in a carefully worded video. "Some of you may have heard about my situation. I was adopted as a young child in circumstances that turned out to be illegal. I recently learned about my biological family. This has been difficult and complicated. I love the parents who raised me. I respect my biological family. I'm working through this privately. Please respect my privacy as I figure out my life." The video got millions of views, mostly supportive comments from followers who admired her maturity in handling an impossible situation. Some comments criticized her for not returning to her biological family. Others supported her choice to define family as she saw it. Lily works part-time at a marketing firm in Portland, has a serious boyfriend she's been dating for 2 years, has an apartment she shares with a roommate from college. She visits Grace in prison monthly, visits Thomas slightly less frequently because his prison is farther away. She considers them her parents and maintains that relationship despite their incarceration. She has occasional contact with Rachel Morgan and Jessica Morgan, maybe 3 or 4 times a year for lunch or coffee when Rachel visits Portland. The relationship is cordial, but not close. Lily calls Rachel, Rachel, not Mom. She treats Jessica like a friendly acquaintance, not a sister. Rachel Morgan, 61, still lives in Phoenix in the same house where Emma grew up. She's retired from nursing now, spends her time with the grandchildren Jessica has given her. Jessica married in 2021 and had a daughter in 2022. Rachel loves being a grandmother, but the joy is always tinged with sadness that Emma and Lily isn't part of it. Rachel has joined advocacy groups working to prevent child trafficking and illegal adoptions. She speaks at events about her experience, trying to turn her pain into purpose. She says in interviews that she's grateful she found Emma. Grateful Emma was safe and well treated, but heartbroken that finding her daughter didn't mean getting her daughter back. "I understand why she feels the way she does," Rachel said in a 2023 interview. "She has no memories of me. She has 14 years of memories with the Chens. I'm essentially a stranger claiming to be her mother. I can't expect her to instantly love me or consider me her mom, but it still hurts. I found her, but I lost her anyway." Jessica Morgan, 27, lives in Phoenix with her husband and daughter. She's maintained occasional contact with Lily, has tried to build a sister relationship, but accepts that it may never be what she hoped. "I have a biological sister out there who doesn't really want to be my sister," Jessica said. "It's sad, but I understand it. She's a stranger to me too, honestly. We don't have shared memories or experience. We're connected by DNA, but that's not enough to create a real relationship. Grace Chen, 58, is serving her 12-year sentence at Coffee Creek Correctional Facility in Oregon. She'll be eligible for parole in 2026. In prison interviews, she's expressed continuing love for Lily and continuing remorse for the pain caused to the Morgan family. "I know what I did was wrong," she said. "I knew it was wrong when I did it, but I wanted a child so desperately, and when I held her for the first time, I loved her instantly. That doesn't excuse what I did. But that's the truth." Thomas Chen, 56, is serving his 10-year sentence at Oregon State Penitentiary. He'll be eligible for parole in 2024. He said less publicly about the case but has maintained in correspondence with Lily that he loves her and is proud of the woman Margaret Sullivan, the woman who actually abducted Emma, pled guilty to kidnapping and related charges and was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. She's currently serving her sentence at a federal facility in California. She's expressed remorse for her crimes and has cooperated with authorities investigating other possible victims of her illegal adoption operation. The case has raised complex questions about identity, family, and justice. Was it better that Emma was found even though she didn't want to return to her biological family? Yes, because she deserved to know the truth about her identity, and her biological family deserved to know she was alive and safe. Should Lily have been forced to have a relationship with the Morgan family? No, because you can't force emotional connections, and an adult has the right to choose their relationship. Were Grace and Thomas Chen's sentences appropriate? This is debated. They committed serious crimes, but they also gave Emma a loving home for 14 years. Some argue the sentences were too harsh. Others argue they should have been harsher for stealing a child. Should Lily be required to use her legal name Emma Morgan? No. A person has the right to be called by the name they identify with, and Lily has 14 years of identity tied to her chosen name. The case has been featured in documentaries about child abduction, discussed in ethics classes about family and identity, analyzed by psychologists studying attachment and memory. 5 years after Lily Chen learned she was Emma Morgan, fundamental questions remain about identity, family, memory, and love. Can you lose your identity and become someone else? Lily Chen was Emma Morgan for 3 years, then was Lily Chen for 14 years. Which identity is more real? The answer, from Lily's perspective, is clear. She's Lily. Emma Morgan is a name attached to DNA evidence and legal documents, but Lily Chen is who she is. Psychologists who've studied the case note that identity formation happens primarily through memory and experience. Emma has no meaningful memories of being Emma. All her formative memories, all her sense of self, developed as Lily Chen. From a psychological standpoint, she is Lily Chen, regardless of her biological origins. Is family defined by biology or by who raises you? This case forces confrontation with that question. Rachel Morgan is Lily's biological mother, carried her for 9 months, gave birth to her, raised her for 3 years. But Grace Chen raised her from age 3 to 17, was there for first days of school, for skinned knees, for teenage heartbreaks, for all the daily experiences that build parent-child bonds. Lily's answer is clear. Grace and Thomas are her parents. Rachel and David Morgan are genetic relatives she doesn't know. But for Rachel, the opposite is true. Emma is her daughter, was stolen from her, and the relationship that should have existed was replaced by a criminal act. There's no resolution to this conflict. Both perspectives are valid. Both families have legitimate claims to relationship with Lily, Emma. But only one can be emotionally primary, and Lily chose the Chens. Should knowing the truth change how you feel? Lily learned at 17 that her entire life had been based on a lie, that she'd been stolen, that her parents had bought her illegally. That revelation didn't change how she felt about Grace and Thomas. She still loved them, still considered them her parents. Does learning that your parents committed crimes to get you mean you should stop loving them? Most people would say no. Children aren't responsible for their parents' crimes, and love doesn't evaporate because of DNA results or legal facts. But it created cognitive dissonance for Lily, knowing intellectually that she was kidnapped, that she was Emma Morgan, that Rachel suffered terribly, while feeling emotionally that she was Lily Chen, who had a happy childhood with loving parents. What does Rachel Morgan deserve? From one perspective, Rachel is the ultimate victim. Her 3-year-old was stolen. She searched for 14 years. Her husband died from the stress, and when she finally found her daughter, that daughter rejected her. Rachel deserves sympathy and deserves to have her daughter back. But from another perspective, what Rachel deserves can't override what Lily wants. Lily is a legal adult who has the right to define her own family relationships. Forcing Lily to perform emotions she doesn't feel wouldn't give Rachel what she actually wants: genuine reconnection with her daughter. The situation is tragic for Rachel because she did nothing wrong, lost everything, and doesn't get resolution. But life isn't fair, and sometimes tragedies don't have just ending. Should Grace and Thomas Chen have gotten longer sentences? They committed serious crimes: conspiracy to kidnap, custodial interference. They could have faced life in prison. Instead, Grace got 12 years. Thomas got 10. Some argue this was too lenient. They stole a child, traumatized a family, built their family on a criminal act. Others argue that given they provided Emma with a loving home and the criminal sentencing guidelines, the sentences were appropriate. The sentences reflect the complexity. Grace and Thomas did something terrible, but they weren't monsters. They were desperate people who made an awful choice and then raised a child lovingly. The justice system struggled to calibrate punishment that reflected both the severity of the crime and the context of the situation. What happens to Lily's YouTube channel? Life with Lily continues. She still posts videos about makeup, college life, lifestyle content. She rarely mentions her past or the legal situation. Her subscribers mostly focus on her content rather than her backstory, though occasionally comments reference what happened. The channel represents Lily's assertion of normalcy. She's not defined by being abducted, not defined by the legal drama, not defined by her DNA. She's just Lily, a young woman making YouTube videos, living her life. Will Lily and Rachel ever have a real relationship? Probably not. At least not the mother-daughter relationship Rachel hopes for. Too much time passed. Too many formative experiences happened without each other. They're essentially strangers with DNA connection. They might develop a cordial adult relationship over time, might maintain occasional contact, might eventually feel affection for each other. But the close bond that should have existed, that was stolen by Emma's abduction, can't be recreated now. Rachel has had to grieve twice. Once when Emma was taken, once when she was found but didn't want to come home. What does this case teach about child abduction? That sometimes abducted children are raised in loving homes by people who commit crimes to get them. That doesn't make the crime less serious, but it complicates the emotional landscape. That finding missing children doesn't always mean happy ending. Sometimes the child has moved on, has a different identity, doesn't want to be found. That biological family relationships can be severed by circumstances, and sometimes they can't be repaired even when everyone involved tries. The final question: is Lily Chen or Emma Morgan? Legally, she's Emma Morgan. That's her birth certificate, her social security number, her official identity. Practically, she's Lily Chen. That's the name she uses, the identity she claims, the person she is in her daily life. The answer depends on whether you prioritize legal, non-biological facts or personal, psychological identity. There's no objectively correct answer. Lily herself has said, "I understand I was born Emma Morgan, but I became Lily Chen. That's who I am now. I can't go back to being someone I don't remember being. I'm sorry that hurts people, but I have to live my truth. And my truth is that I'm Lily." Rachel Morgan found her daughter after 14 years of searching. But the daughter she found wasn't the daughter she lost. Emma Morgan, the 3-year-old in the pink jacket, no longer exists. She was replaced by Lily Chen, who has her own life, her own family, and her own truth. Sometimes finding someone means discovering they're gone in a different way. End. 68. Fade out, and the two families directly involved. It became a case study in law schools, psychology programs, and ethics courses across the country, forcing students and professionals to grapple with questions that have no clean answers. Changes in missing children investigations. Phoenix Police Department, along with other agencies nationwide, updated their protocols for long-term missing children cases based on what they now conduct periodic social media searches for missing children, using age progression photos to identify possible matches on platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. 3 other missing children cases have been solved since 2019, using similar social media identification methods. Detective Sarah Williams, who helped solve Emma's case, now trains other law enforcement agencies on these techniques. The Emma Morgan case showed us that missing children can be hiding in plain sight on social media, she said in a training video. They're not hiding intentionally. They don't know they're missing. But they're there, living public lives online, and we need to be looking for impact on adoption law. The case highlighted weaknesses in the private adoption system that allowed criminals like Margaret Sullivan to operate. Oregon and Arizona both passed stricter laws regulating private adoption facilitators, requiring more background checks, more oversight, and harsher penalties for illegal child placement operations. The National Council for Adoption used Emma's case as an example in lobbying for federal legislation to close loopholes that allow black market adoption networks to flourish. While progress has been slow, awareness of the issue has increased significantly. Psychological research on identity formation. Dr. Patricia Chen, no relation to the Chen family, a developmental psychologist at Stanford University, published a research paper in 2021 titled Identity Formation in Cases of Early Childhood Abduction, the Emma Morgan Case Study. With Lily's permission, the paper examined how identity develops when a child's early years are spent in one family environment, but their formative years in another. The paper concluded that identity is primarily formed through memory and experience, rather than genetics, which explains why Lily maintained her identity as Lily Chen despite DNA evidence of her true origin. The research has influenced how psychologists understand attachment, memory, and identity development. Dr. Chen wrote, Emma Morgan's case demonstrates that by age 3 or 4, if a child is placed in a loving, stable environment, their psychological identity will form around that environment, regardless of their biological or legal identity. This has profound implications for adoption, foster care, and cases of parental abduction where children are raised by non-biological caregivers. Support groups for complex family situations. Rachel Morgan's experience led her to found a support group called Found But Lost for families who've recovered missing children but couldn't rebuild relationships with them. The group includes parents whose children were abducted by ex-spouses and raised to not remember or recognize their other parent. Parents whose children were taken young and recovered as teenagers who don't want to return, and other complex situations. The group meets monthly in Phoenix and has online meetings for members across the country. Rachel says, People think finding your missing child means the story ends happily. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes finding them is just a different kind of loss. These families need support that understands that complexity. Impact on Grace and Thomas Chen's lives in prison. Grace Chen has used her time in prison to work with other inmates, particularly those who made desperate choices that led to criminal convictions. She's become an advocate for prison education programs and for supporting inmates' family relationships. She's written letters to legislators about keeping families connected during incarceration. She's maintained her relationship with Lily through weekly phone calls, monthly visits, and daily letters. Her prison counselor reports that Grace has fully accepted responsibility for her crimes, while maintaining that loving Lily wasn't a crime, even if acquiring her was. Thomas Chen has taught computer skills to other inmates, helping them prepare for employment after release. He's quieter than Grace about the case, but has expressed similar sentiments: remorse for the crime, no regret for raising Lily. Both are expected to be released on parole in the next few years. Both plan to rebuild their lives in Portland near Lily, though their relationship with her may be limited by the terms of their parole. Jessica Morgan's perspective. Jessica has written a memoir titled The Sister I Found Twice, about her experience losing her sister at age 7, growing up in the shadow of that loss, finding her sister 14 years later, and accepting that the sister she found wasn't the sister she remembered. The book, published in 2023, became a bestseller and was praised for its honest exploration of complex emotions: love, loss, resentment, hope, disappointment, acceptance. Jessica writes candidly about growing up with a mother consumed by grief, about feeling invisible compared to the missing sister who dominated their family narrative, about the strange experience of finding Emma only to realize Emma was gone in a different way. I spent my childhood wanting my sister back, Jessica writes. When we found her, I thought we'd be a family again. Instead, I learned that sometimes people can't go back to who they were. Lily is technically my sister, but we're strangers. I've had to grieve Emma all over again, knowing this time she's alive and safe, just doesn't want to be part of our family. That's a different kind of grief than thinking she was dead. The book has resonated with thousands of readers dealing with complicated family situations, estrangement, and relationships that don't match societal expectations of what family should be. Lily's own reckoning. While Lily maintains her identity and her relationship with the Chens, she's not naive about the complexity of her situation. In a 2024 interview with a psychology podcast, she spoke thoughtfully about her experience. People want me to pick a side. Either embrace my biological family or defend the people who raised me. But it's not that simple. I can acknowledge that what Grace and Thomas did was wrong, that they hurt people, that my biological family suffered terribly. And I can also acknowledge that they gave me a good life, that they loved me, that I love them. Both things are true. I feel guilty sometimes that I can't give Rachel what she wants. She's a good person who did nothing wrong and lost everything. She deserves better than what life gave, but I can't manufacture feelings I don't have. I can't remember being Emma Morgan. I can't feel like Rachel's daughter when I don't remember her. Maybe that makes me a bad person. Maybe I should try harder to connect with my biological family. But I also have to be authentic about who I am and what I feel. And what I feel is that I'm Lily Chen, daughter of Grace and Thomas Chen. And that's my truth, even if it hurts other people. The broader questions. The case continues to generate discussion about fundamental questions. When does a person become who they are? Is it from birth, making Emma Morgan's identity immutable? Or is it through experience and memory, making Lily Chen's identity equally valid? Does suffering give someone rights over another person's life? Rachel suffered tremendously, but does that mean Lily owes her a relationship? Is it possible to condemn someone's actions while maintaining love for them? Lily has shown it is. She acknowledges Grace and Thomas committed serious crimes while still considering them her parents. Can family be chosen, or is it determined by biology? This case suggests both are true simultaneously, creating irreconcilable conflicts when biological family and chosen family aren't the same. The continuing story. As of early 2025, Lily is preparing to graduate from Portland State University. She's been offered a job at a marketing firm in Portland and plans to stay in the area. She continues posting YouTube videos about her life, though she's careful about privacy now. She sees Grace regularly in prison and stays in touch with Thomas. She has occasional contact with Rachel and Jessica but hasn't become close with them. She's accepted that she has two families, one she was born into and one she was raised in, and that she can't fully belong to both. Rachel continues living in Phoenix, being a grandmother to Jessica's children, working with her advocacy group, and holding out quiet hope that someday Lily might see her as more than a stranger with a biological. The stuffed rabbit Emma was holding when she was taken was kept by Rachel for 14 years. When Rachel met Lily in 2019, she tried to give it to her as a connection to her past. Lily looked at it, said she didn't remember it, and politely declined to take it. The rabbit sits in Emma's preserved bedroom in Phoenix, a symbol of everything that was lost and can never be recovered. The case reminds us that some stories don't have happy endings, that finding someone doesn't always mean getting them back, and that identity is more complex than DNA. Emma Morgan is alive and safe. Rachel Morgan found her daughter, but Emma as Lily has chosen her own path, chosen her own family, and chosen her own truth. That choice has caused pain, but it's also been an assertion of autonomy and identity that, perhaps, is the only happy ending this story could have. Sometimes the greatest mysteries aren't about what happened, but about what happens after. Emma Morgan became Lily Chen, and that transformation proved irreversible despite DNA, despite laws, despite a mother's 14 years of searching and hoping and never giving up.